You'll be able to see this. Okay. My name is Ryan McCullough, as a couple of people have said. And so my wife and I have worked for a few years in the campus ministry here. Had a great time, and then 6 months ago we moved up to Rockland County, which is across the GW and then north. Kind of by Jersey, but in New York. And I got a secular job. I took an internship at a bank in the city, and then now I'm working with an investment manager. Actually got a full-time position, which is great. With an investment manager in Connecticut. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that stuff during the message here. Also, as people mentioned, a month ago, 1 month and 1 day ago, we had our first baby, a little baby girl. And we can sing if you want. There we go. That's her. That's actually. Can we actually turn the lights? Is there a way to do that? Can we turn the lights down a little bit? No? Okay, that's fine. Alright, you can kind of see. This is like right after she came out. That's why she's all red and puffy and everything. So she's like probably, an hour old here. And she, this whole process was, I could tell you lots about it, especially the brothers. Oh man, this is a process here. I respect my wife. I always have respected my wife a ton, but I saw a side of her that I had never seen before. And so she preferred to do like a natural birth, so without drugs. And so that was her choice. That was something that she wanted. And so she said, if it gets too crazy, then there we go. She said if it gets too crazy, we can we'll have something there. But really, what she ideally, without complications, she wanted to do things kind of naturally. And so it was intense. It was intense. So that's Grace. Grace Vivian McCullough. I'll give you a couple more pictures. So that's her sleeping. I just have baby pictures. This is mostly my slides here. There's her, and then I think that's Thanksgiving. She looks more like Lauren, but that's a good thing. So, and then the last one. There you go. So anyway, it's been great. As any of you who have small children or have had children know, it is an adjustment. She actually has started sleeping for maybe 4 hours at a time, that's really good, considering she's 4 weeks old. So we're hoping that things will continue, more sleep. And so anyway, it's just been a ton of transitions here, from one kind of ministry or church family to another, from one career to another, from one, from being married without kids to now having kids. Just a ton of transitions kind of all at once. And Lauren jokes that we like to do our transitions like that. It was the same thing when we moved here and got married, all together. It was kind of the same thing. But so it's been kind of a challenging time, honestly. It's been a really good time, but also a challenging time for us. And I just wanted to share this morning one insight that a brother actually shared with me several months ago that has really helped me through this time, and hopefully it's helpful for you as well this morning. And it's about thinking about where are we safe spiritually? Where are we safe? And conversely, where are we in danger spiritually? Where are we in danger and where are we safe? You can turn over to John chapter 10. We're going to get there in a moment. Sometimes the places that we think are the safest are actually the most dangerous. And sometimes the places that we think are the most dangerous are actually the safest. I looked up, this is kind of a silly, before that, when we were about to have the baby, so she was born on November 1st, and you know what else was happening right in New York right around November 1st. So this hurricane was coming in, Lauren was due on November 2nd, and we were, she was already 2 inches dilated, and, things were about to happen. This was Monday morning, and the contractions were kind of starting, and so we were like, oh my gosh, So we actually just came into the city, and Lauren's parents were like, "What are you doing? Why are you going into the city? This is where that's where the hurricane's going. Why don't we stay out here?" But we were like, "Look, we were scheduled to deliver at a hospital in the city. We were at St. Luke's Roosevelt." So we said, if the bridges close and the tunnels close, what are we going to do, right? Have her at home? I mean, So we went into the city and we stayed the night with the Wrights, and then ended up giving birth actually 2 days later on that Thursday. But it was funny being at the Wrights. For those of you who live up in Harlem, during the hurricane, it was very little that happened up there, which was amazing to me, right? I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, but we were watching on the news everything that was going on kind of downtown in the city, and we were up, looking out the windows trying to see what was happening, and they're right next to Central Park, and it was like a little breeze. And we're looking for something tremendous, to be happening, and it was nothing. And it was weird because this, in our minds, had thought, man, this is going to be a dangerous place down there in the city. Things falling off of buildings. We thought, it's going to be like martial law in New York. But it was like, okay, a little breeze, at least where the Wrights were. Obviously, other places really were much more severely impacted. But we were very safe where we were. I looked this up. It says that one of the most dangerous activities that we do, actually, worst for our health, and you probably have read this recently, it came out with a couple studies, is sitting. Well done, all of you. Way to go. It says sitting. I don't know, have you guys read these? Heard about this? They say because we lead a lot of sedentary lifestyle. So, a lot of us, we work, and that's me too, at least now, right? We sit down all day at a computer, at a desk, and then you go home and you sit in your car on the way home or on the subway on the way home, and then you get home, you sit on the couch or in your chair, and you just sit all day. And the British Journal of Sports Medicine said, they used to study this, they actually looked at people sitting while watching television, because it's kind of a good proxy for kind of a sedentary lifestyle. And they said every single hour of television that you sit and watch after the age of 25 reduces your life expectancy by 21.8 minutes.
No way.
Every single hour of life. This is when I look at actuarially, how long do people live and how much TV. Okay. They said by comparison, smoking a single cigarette, and we all know smoking is not good for you. Smoking a single cigarette reduces life expectancy by about 11 minutes. Also not good. But less than half of sitting and watching an hour of television. Looking more broadly, they concluded that an adult who spends an average of 6 hours a day watching TV over the course of a lifetime can expect to live 4.8 years fewer than a person who does not watch TV. Those results hold true, the authors point out, even for people who exercise regularly. Isn't that, that's amazing. Somebody said that's messed up. Agreed, that is messed up. Here's another one. The Journal of Diabetologia, I don't know, okay, they have a lot of journals, says they classify people by their kind of sedentary behavior. And they said those with kind of the highest sedentary behavior, meaning those who sat the most, had a 112% increase in the relative risk of developing diabetes, a 147% increase in the risk of cardiovascular disease, and a 49% greater risk of dying prematurely, even if they regularly exercise. Again, they say sitting is bad for you. Now, so there's a guy in my office who sits right next to me, and he doesn't actually sit at his desk, he squats like this. And he was a basketball player in college, so he actually doesn't even really use his chair much. He just sits like this. So if you want to do that, go ahead. People will probably make fun of you at your work, but I've done it once. I didn't have the courage to keep up with it. Maybe we can just... Alright. But again, these are things that we think are safe, right? Just sitting on the couch, hanging out. What is so dangerous about that? Watching an hour of television. It said for every hour, again, almost 22 minutes of life gone. At least on average is what they say. Look in John chapter 10. See what Jesus says about this kind of thing. So up until now, Jesus has, in the Gospel of John, he was born, he kind of begins his ministry with John the Baptist, who's, here, I'll look at a map here. There we go. All right, so Jesus is born, and he does much of his ministry on the west side. There you go. East side, west side. I get my east and west mixed up. On the west side of the Jordan, okay? So you see Judea, Samaria, and Galilee, which is where Jesus carries on most of his ministry. John the Baptist baptizes him over by Bethany on the east side of the Jordan. This is where John the Baptist carries on most of his. And so Jesus gets baptized by John and then spends much of the rest of the next couple of years kind of in this side, on the west side of the Jordan. And as Garth mentioned, kind of towards chapter 8 of John, his opposition starts to kind of heat up. So he starts healing people, but he's healing them on the Sabbath. And so the Pharisees are like, you know, if you were really from God, you wouldn't be healing people on the Sabbath, right? Because you're not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath, so why are you healing people? And so there's this controversy that begins, and there's this argument about, is Jesus really a good guy because he's healing people, or is he a bad guy who's messing with all the traditions and God's laws because he's doing it on the Sabbath? And it gets to the point in John chapter 10 that the people want to stone him. Now, let's read verses 39 to 42. It says again, actually let's start a little bit earlier. Let's read it starting at 34. It says, Jesus answered them, "Is it not written in your law, I have said you are gods? If he called them gods to whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken, what about the one whom the Father set apart as his very own, and sent him into the world? Why then do you accuse me of blasphemy? Because I said I am God's son. Do not believe me unless I do what my Father does. But if I do it, even though you do not believe me, believe the miracles. You may know and understand that the Father is in me, and I in the Father." Again, they tried to seize him, but he escaped their grasp. Then Jesus went back across the Jordan to a place where John had been baptizing in the early days. Again, back across the Jordan. Here he stayed, and many people came to him. They said, though John never performed a miraculous sign, all that John said about this man was true. And in that place, many believed in Jesus. So Jesus begins his ministry. His disciples start following, and then the persecution starts heating up. And to the point where people are literally going to pick up stones and throw them at him until he is dead. I mean, we face a little bit of persecution today, right? We face, people will say, I don't disagree, or you're stupid, or you're foolish, things like that. You don't really see, at least in New York, people pick up stones to throw them at your head until you're dead. Agreed? Yeah, okay, right? But imagine this, right? You're sitting there, imagine you're like in Times Square, and people literally started like, "What are you saying?" And he like ran to, I don't know, they would go to like a shoe store, I don't know what they would get, right? In times, maybe they go to like Shake Shack, they're like, "Oh, give me a burger." They just start throwing stuff. But this is really what they want to do. They started, like, this mob just starts grabbing things, and they literally pick up stones, and they said, "Look, we're gonna stone this guy." And imagine you're walking with somebody, say, a brother says, "Hey, let's go share our faith. Let's go share our faith." And you go to Times Square, and people start grabbing this stuff. And this brother's like, "Come on, bring it, let's go," and he's preaching. Now, are you with him? How are you feeling?